I remember my first shift when I started at Christian Horizons. I'd met a man that was in a dark room, that was very quiet, lying in a bed, didn't react to anyone entering his room. I seen very much a broken person.
What was David like before the depression? He was really happy-go-lucky, laughed a lot, never cried.
He lived with us until he was in his 40s. We were getting older and we were going to retire. We thought he has to learn to live on his own.
David was living semi-independently in an apartment that his parents had owned. And then David had suffered a mental health crisis, which led to him being hospitalized.
It was terrible. It was pretty well 7-8 hours a day of crying. I remember going to the hospital once to see him, and you could hear him when you walked into the corridor. It was just out of control.
How did you feel when you were living in the hospital?
Not good. I was wanting to get out because it was too much for the person.
He was regressing even more. They really had thrown up their hands and were basically, I think, just chemically restraining him at that point. Before Christian Horizons, that was his third hospital stay, but it was the longest. It was 1.5 years.
David's parents had promised Dave that they would never place him into a group home.
They thought of group home as a bad word almost, that was kind of giving up on their son. And it ended up being the exact opposite.
I met David 10 years ago. I started working at Christian Horizons, and back in those days, Dave refused to leave his room, refused to leave his bed. I would sit long hours at a table in David's basement, just spending time with him. Would play music, talk to him, didn't really hear a response a lot of the time. One Saturday morning, I came into work. Something was different about that day. I was greeted by Dave from his bed, saying to me that I want to get up today, and I want to go see my mother, and I want to ride the O train. I'll never forget, we pulled in their driveway, David went in the house and embraced his mother and his father, and they had a family moment. It was very emotionally driven. Everyone in that room had wet eyes, myself included. I think that day Dave came to terms with whatever it was that was causing the stress for him. From that day, Dave had ever greater moments away from that bed.
Part of the supports that we gave to Dave was to get him engaged. You could see the good times start to happen more and more. He'd be engaged for longer, doing things that he seemed to enjoy. He's taken a lot of small steps to get to where he is right now.
Definitely with Christian Horizons, they've been able to get him to start speaking again and having his passions like music and having a hobby room for him. He's working right now at the Grow Wood Shop, which is just an amazing experience for him. And I can't get over the difference, how much confidence it's given him.
Seeing gifts of people and recognizing abilities versus talking about disabilities is what Christian Horizons is all about. We know that people like Dave have gifts to share with other people.
One of the toughest conversations that I've had in my professional career was a conversation with David's father, Gil, on his deathbed. And I remember Gil asking me, someday when you're not working for Christian Horizons anymore, will you have a relationship with my son? And I thought, wow, most definitely. When I had an opportunity and I wasn't working with David any longer, it almost became selfish because I miss David. David has become a very significant part of my life. When I introduced Dave, I introduced him as one of my best friends. Just this past summer, David was spending time with us, and my girls had said, David, do you want to come play with us? And David said, please don't call me David anymore, call me Uncle David. And it was something that I think for Dave was that I really feel like I belong with these people.
Seeing Dave receive support for all aspects of who he is definitely helped him to flourish and to get from where he was to where he is now.
I didn't ever expect him to come back from the depression, to be honest. And I think he's even surpassed what he was before. That's amazing to me. And he's still flourishing and improving, and he's still on his own journey now. Yeah, he's on his own journey.
What would you say to them, those people that helped you?
Just keep the word better and better horizons.
Well said, Dave.
Yeah.